I don't have many memories left from my past. The faces of my real parents were like faded masks in my mind. I only had the remains of my childhood, faceless names, and total darkness. At the age of 9, something had happened to my family. The trauma was so deep that it made me forget most of my life. I had shred the memory related to my best friend. He was the only one I had in my whole life. It was an image stuck in my mind, going together with laughter in the background and the melody of a music box. Among the back holes of my amnesia, I caught a glimpse of his honey-colored eyes and his dark mahogany hair. I remembered his friendly smile, but nothing else. All did the rest disappeared in the dark. So did he. The memories went back to the orphanage from where I was born. Some awesome parents, Madeline and Stephen, who gave me back the warm feeling of having a family, adopted me, a feeling which I had forgotten. They raised me in their house until the age of 15. My amnesia led me to go on examinations and psychological checkups, which year after year were slowly starting to fail. It looked like I wouldn't be able to get my memory back. This had left me distraught. On one hand, I wanted to know what happened, but on the other, an odd feeling of anxiety suggested I not wish on it. Obviously, there were unpleasant consequences to my trauma. It was just like some paranoia of being persecuted by something. My specialists would told my parents that it must have been linked to a peculiar memory, which was continuously stimulated. Neither the cause nor what it was exactly, but clear. But despite my efforts, I couldn't focus on it. I felt like I was being observed, not by people, but from the stuffed toys in my room. It was stupid, I know. At the beginning, they were simply toys, but time and time again, their big round eyes seemed to stare at me. Since I was little, I thought the stuffed toys in my room were alive, and sometimes I tried to prove it. I spied out of my room with the door left ajar. Then I turned back suddenly and never took my eyes off. Not until I felt a bit of a burning sensation from not blinking my eyes. That memory was one of those memories from my childhood that still made me smile. But things have changed. Time after time, the stuffed toys were the ones staring at me. It almost looked like they wanted to test me, and I couldn't bear it anymore. The thought stuck in my mind. At times, it seemed like they moved, turning their little faces towards me. At other times, they made the noises in my room. This couldn't be true, obviously. Why did I thought persecuted me? Well, I hate those stuffed toys. In spite of everything, why didn't I get rid of them? I could have presented them to other children or throw them in the rubbish. One day I tried, I really did, but when I took one of them in my arms, a strong sense of anxiety and terror stopped me. I always ended up putting them back in their places on the furniture, on my bed, the shelves, and then I had to take the tranquilizers. There was the only one toy I took along with me during the night. Despite my age, I couldn't separate from him, and I felt a familiar affection from him that started long before my amnesia. I found him in my wardrobe at the orphanage, and from there on we became inseparable. It was a sweet bunny with long ears long as him. On one side it was red, and the other side it recited a caramel color. He wore a black waistcoat with two long sleeves and draped down to the point of his feet, a dash and elegant collar that donned pointed tips at the very edge of the fabric. His little left beaded eyes were covered with a stylish frilly eye patch, and at the center dawned a black button. It was funny. It looked like the stuffed toy, that it was harmless. He slept by my side ever since I was little, just like that night. After I sneak under the sheets, falling asleep almost instantly amongst the creaking old walls. I was standing still in the darkness, unable to move, and I couldn't understand how I ended up here, surrounded by this only desolated silence. Something slimy grabbed my wrist and held me so tightly that an instant pain shot right through me. A set of white nails slowly penetrated my flesh. I watched them cutting through my skin, making me bleed. I screamed and cried, but a laugh bellowed out, covering my desperate pleas. "She belongs to me," a voice whispered to me. Within that dark abyss, two green sparkling eyes approached before me. They were a few inches away from my face. "You are only a hindrance to me." He laughed, amused by my pain, while he pierced the needles under my nails and into my flesh. He ruined my body with rusty tools. On the contrary, he said he was going to fix me all up. I noticed a door, the only thing I could distinguish from the darkness. My eyes blurred by the pain. I saw a glimpse of people standing, still gazing down on me. This image of that door got closer, in order to show me their vacant expression, despite the grimaces plastered on their faces. I saw that they were not real people. They were dolls, and in some way, I felt a strong sense of nausea come over me and just staring at them. There was something about them that made me weak to the stomach, and maybe it was just extraordinary and macabre resemblance to real people. She belongs to me. With that, I woke up and my eyes wide open at the beating of my heart. It was so loud I could feel them pounding inside my throat. I couldn't breathe, so I stood up and then sat back down. I rubbed my eyes, and I realized that I was sweating. The bunny fell, landing upside down. I leaned down for him and put him on back on my bed. My breathing returned to its normal breathing pace, but those images of needles, dirty blood, and those terrifying dolls remained embedded in my mind. I never had such a nightmare like that before. The feelings were so terribly real. I felt those claws making a hole in my flesh, but I was relieved that I woke up. The door squeaked. It was my mother coming in my room. As soon as she saw my exhausted face, her smile on her face faded away. Honey, are you okay? Yes, I only had a nightmare. Now everything is all right. Okay, Daisy came to visit you. I told her to wait for you in the living room. With that, I got out of bed. I was dressed poorly, and I didn't want my best friend to see me that way. While my mother closed the door, I ran over to my wardrobe and took out an ordinary dress. In the space of a few minutes, I came out of my room, neat and ready. In my haste, I was finally out of breath. Finally, Daisy exclaimed, smiling. I met Daisy at middle school, and ever since then we were inseparable. She was a kind and generous person. She always welcomed in our family. My parents appreciate her good manners, but what I loved about her was especially that she never asked me anything about my past. I was able to tell her about my amnesia in complete confidence. The day was nice and sunny, so we lay down in the garden under an old tupelo tree. We talked while sheltering from the sun in the shade of the tree. I bought some colored pencils and blank sheets of paper, and we both started drawing. Daisy felt tired immediately, and she started picking up daisies and putting them in her blonde braid while she gossiped about Lucia, a girl who lived for being the center of people's attention. While my friend was talking, I listened to her and kept on drawing, without taking my eyes off the sheet of paper. Who's that? She asked me suddenly, noticing the drawing. It was as if I fell asleep at the exact moment. I battered my eyelids in front of the sheet of paper, and rather confused about seeing the drawing repeated several times on the same character. I don't know. I did not have the slightest idea of who he was. The clearest drawing showed a man wearing a black jacket with an extravagant and voluminous fur on his shoulders. He had a beautiful, happy smile and two yellow eyes that were covered a bit by his fringe. He wore a dark clothing, and in his hands he was holding a little blue case resembling a music box. Maybe I saw him in the illustration book. Oh, okay, let's have an ice cream, said Daisy, changing the subject of our conversation, seemingly not very interested. Ants are coming under my skirt. On that night, I had another nightmare, and this one was worse than the previous night I had before. I dreamed about that dark figure again, who brutally tortured me and kept saying the same phrase all over again. She's mine. I woke up at 2 a.m., breathing rapidly. I curled up in the feeling of the ball wall behind my back. I put my hands over my face and I breathed in deeply. It was a dream, just a dream, I whispered. Then I looked over at the bunny next to me, which was looking back at me with his black eye and his irritated glance. I threw it on the floor. Since the moment I started sleeping with that thing, my dreams turned into meaningless nightmares. I turned around to rest my legs, and in that moment, I touched something with my foot. I elevated my gaze and noticed a doll sitting on my bed. At first, I was frozen in place. All I could do was stare at her. I didn't understand how she appeared there. My mind didn't start thinking back to my parents, who given me a present. Perhaps I didn't have the real thing for dolls, and to tell you the truth, her presence in my room bothered me. It was a peculiar doll made of wax and unusual characteristics. She had a headdress of flowers flowing through her hair, and only a few locks caressed her cheeks. She wore an embroidered white lace dress with black ribbon tied to her waist. Her arms were unordinarily long. She had long tapering fingernails that were not even normal. What had lost my attention was the rose she put at the center of her mouth, as if supposed to silence her. I looked at her closer and scanned her under the moonlight. I touched her face and realized there was something wrong. I knelt down and tried to get a closer look at her. Then I heard something, a sort of subdued sound, like a wheeze. It was coming from the same doll. Screaming, I let her fall to the floor and stood up in horror, trembling violently, pushing myself back in the wall, screaming for my parents. Everything turned surreal. The wall next to the door enlarged, like if there was a bubble between the paint and the cement. Slowly, some cracks appeared as they increased in number. The paint fell into pieces, landing on the floor as it revealed the blue door. I hadn't had the slightest idea of what was happening. These things exist only in books or in our imagination. But in my astonishment, I felt like something was going to come out of that door. From that door, I see the same black hands that I witnessed in my nightmares. "Aren't you happy about Daisy coming to visit you, are you?" said the monster, standing on the first hold of the door. I didn't like her either, you know. She screamed a lot. "Daisy? What did she do with it?" I looked around confused, looking for the presence of my friend that obviously wasn't there anymore. At the end, my eyes washed over the doll. That blonde hair and that face of matte wax looked strangely familiar. I held my breath. A nightmare. It must have been another nightmare. I rushed over to the doll and turned her face to my trembling hands. I put my ear over her chest and heard some sound along that horrible wheeze, the pounding of my heart. "Daisy! Daisy!" I cried desperately. It had to be a nightmare. Something like this could have not been happening. I realized that my parents were next to my room according to the sounds I heard. They must have heard me screaming, but the monster blocked the entrance. He pulled the door shut, blocking it with its same setting, deforming the wood. My parents started punching on the other side, and I didn't know what to do. It did not look like a dream. It was perfectly clear. It was more than those nightmares of darkness and torture. My heart was beating so fast that I started to feel pain from it. I felt the sweat from my forehead and the doll trembling in my hands, which I couldn't keep still. The monster stood at the entrance, not moving from there. In the half light, I could see his evil smirk, as if he was waiting for my reaction. I unbuttoned Daisy's dress, who looked imprisoned under the tons of wax, and started to dig, trying to set her free. I dug and dug and I dug, while her moans became more and more immense, until I felt something familiar wet under my nails. I looked at my hands, covered with blood. Her skin must have been mixed with wax, and the digging I did, it was not helping her at all. That thing was supposedly be Daisy was suffering. Her wheezes were blood-curdling, but her expression was that of an impassive doll. I trembled with horror. I had to repress the retch, and I finally felt my arm being grabbed. "My splendid Maggie, you have ruined your doll," exclaimed the monster with his whitish eyes, sparkle with green pale light. "You even threw Mr. Bunny on the floor, but I forgive you. You must return to the place where you belong by my side." "Who the hell are you?" I shook book like a madman, trying to set myself free, while my parents were trying to break down the door. The expression of that creature was filled with astonishment. "I am Jason the Toy Maker," he exclaimed, "your faithful friend, the only one you could trust." At hearing the name, something moved in my memories, like an electric shock hit through my body. My father succeeded in breaking the door down and turned on the light. When I finally saw him, his face brimmed with the bomb that had exploded, setting free my memories that were buried deep in the corners of my mind all those years. I remember the day we met for the first time, the toys that seemed bloom from his hands. I remember his friendly smile that gradually turned into a sharp and sadistic smirk. That day he showered me with exasperation. He expected me to give him more attention because of his ignorance, and he believed and he deserved everything from me. When he grew tired of me, he showed me that what he really was. He eliminated all the people that surrounded in my life. He kidnapped my friends and turning them into his toy dolls, and I was bluntly stupid for always admiring them. Rushing home was useless, because the blue door reappeared at the center of the living room. He massacred my parents. He took his revenge by taking them away from me, and almost got to me too. I managed escaping from his clutches, running as fast as I could, away from him. As far as I ran out of the smell of blood, and that old decomposed flesh lingered in the air. It was you! I was possessed by anger and I started hitting him. You killed him! You! I kept hitting him, but Jason was smiling, as if it was tickling him. He didn't have any remorse for ruining my life. He was a possessive beast who concealed himself from my childish eyes behind an angel's face. He was able to give me everything, at the same time to terminate everything around me. He was friend fiendish. Of course it was me, my splendid creature. Mr. Bunny even showed it to you. He smiled with self-evident truth. I made for you many toys, and I can't wait to introduce you to Miranda, but you could call her Mandy if you like. Suddenly something hit his head, and it shattered into pieces. My father had a wooden club. He aimed a blow at the monster's head, but one that broke was the wood. Jason's smile turned into an infuriated scowl, and his grip increased on my wrist. He turned around when my father saw Jason's face, and he opened his eyes wide, and my mother covered her mouth to conceal her screams. My father didn't waste time, trying to set me free. The club, broken in half with that one blow to the toy maker's face, allowed him to let go of me. Together with my parents, I ran out from my room, and we quickly rushed to the entrance. My father opened the door, but instead of the garden path in front of us, there was Jason's workshop. Maggie, I give you one last chance, Jason said calmly, walking down the stairs, after which I'll dye the walls with blood of all the people who surrounded you, you bastard. To the kitchen, quick! We ran over to the kitchen, hearing the monster's laugh following us, and once we were in, we could still see through the windows. The toy maker's little factory. Now I was desperately sure it wasn't a nightmare. That terror overwhelmed me, and Daisy's blood on my fingers were more real than anything else I ever felt. I turned around. Where's Dad? My mother grabbed a knife and got closer to me, holding tightly in her arms. Stephen! With her trembling voice, she called him, but we sighed with relief when we saw him coming into the kitchen. Hurry up before... My mom's voice blocked, just like me. She stared at my dad's pale face as he slowly walked with a fixed look on his face and his eyes wide open. Suddenly he fell to the floor, and behind him appeared Jason's frozen smile. The toy maker looked at me with crazy eyes. Dad's battery decreased. It should be recharged. Jason revealed a giant mechanical key and drove it into my father's back. Already stained with blood, he turned it with force and twisting my father's backbone. At the second turn, I shouted, covering my ears to block out the sound of the breaking bones. But I couldn't help but taking my eyes off my father's body, contorting itself like a snake. Go away, be gone, leave my child alone. My mother held me tight at her chest, as despite the terrors and tears she shed, her face resembled one of those lionesses shielding their cub. Silence, woman. It's not who I want to talk to. The furious toy maker, and at the end, he pointed his white claw at me. Come with me, my sweet friend. We will have fun together, and we'll be back at laughing like we did then. No, you're just an insane psychopath. I don't know what kind of monster you are. I really don't have an idea that you could exist at this world. But one thing is for sure, you must disappear forever from my life. At the sound of my refusal, Jason's face clouded over, and his eyes sparkled with fury. He started to rave, to contort himself and jerking his head as he went on the blink of an eye because of me. I don't understand, he growled quietly. I don't understand. He screamed, grinding his teeth. His face became more terrifying. I was the only one staying by your side when your parents preferred to work than to stay with you. I was a loyal friend, and while the ones surrounding you only looked out for you when they needed it. He came closer. I gave you all my attention, giving you loads of my toys, and I never made you lack of nothing. I always aimed for your own good, and that's why I destroyed everything hurting you. His screams were so loud that it resounded over the walls, while my body shook in horror at the very word. I got rid of all the people that were saddening you, because I wanted you to be happy by my side after I looked for you for so long. You even forgot me? I was a true friend, but you turned your back on me. Suddenly his furious face relaxed, but not his previous insane smile. After doing this for you, there isn't another explanation. There is really something wrong with you. He instilted on me with an accusatory look. You were a very bad little girl, so I have to fix you up." "What?" I trembled with my voice. "You heard me well, you little ungrateful. I will fix you up so you will be good." He snickered. "You will be a very beautiful old toy doll." My mom, who was paralyzed by Jason's charade, suddenly awoke and pointed the knife over to him. "If you even dare to graze Maggie, I swear I will kill you." Jason looked at my mother with a challenging gaze and slowly came closer, the knife trembling in my mom's hands while the toy maker gave an expression guise. She couldn't understand the tension. She pushed me back behind her and hurled herself in front of him. My mom stabbed him in the heart, and the monster opened his eyes wide. He made a contortion of pain, conjuring his dark eyebrows, and my mother smiled triumph. "Just kidding." In that moment, a smirk appeared on Jason's face. He opened his arms with nonchalance, and without taking the knife out from his chest, my mother was shocked and stood still for a few seconds, but she was possessed by the exasperation and started stabbing him several times, trying desperately to make him react somehow. The disgusting sound of flesh pierced the knife could be heard clearly, while the shirt was ripping, but Jason kept his balance perfect. "That's enough now," he commented, bored and straight after he hit my mother in the face, making her fall violently to the floor. "I'll be in trouble if you scratched it." I was quickly next to my mother, helping her get on her knees. The side of her face was already swollen. My eyes leaped on the toy maker as I was waiting for his immediate revenge, but I was petrified when I glimpsed what he was doing. He unbuttoned his shirt and drove his nails into his chest, close enough to the injuries got him from the knife. He sank his claws into his flesh, and he slowly started pulling the opposite side. The wound appeared as a little rip in the center, which enlarged as the flesh shredded like paper. A thick black liquid dripped onto the floor. It was not blood. Even if it was, it must have been something rotten. Something sparked within this exposed ribcage. "You probably will forget how much I care for my splendid music box, but luckily everything is all right." He took his hands off from his exposed chest and covered the hole with his shirt, hiding the music box that started to play from the inside. He then came closer. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg, but the horror I had witnessed left me completely paralyzed to do anything, which implied squeezing up with my mother. It only took a yank for the toy maker to tear her out of my arms, and he took her up without effort and pushed her back into his chest, preventing her to wiggle out of him. He clenched his arm around her neck, while the other arm blocked the hand that stabbed him. "Now I'll show you what happens to whom tries to hinder me, Mom." He slowly bent her arm in the opposite direction. She cried from pain, trying to set herself free, but that monster was strong enough to bend her limb and make the bones come out. My mother sank to her nails in his blackish flesh, which flaked apart, producing a nauseating smell, but she could not set herself free, since the grip was wrapped tightly. "All right, I'll come with you," I shouted with all the voice I had in my body. Jason raised his stare and gave me a serious look. My mother was becoming paler due to the pain and blood loss. She needed my help, but there was nothing I could do but handling myself to the toy maker. "You could take me with you, but leave my mother alone," I said with my trembling voice. "After all, we're friends, right?" I tried to make a convincing smile, despite I was trembling from head to toe. My eyes were filled with tears. Jason smirked as he was outright satisfied and pleased of his victory. "Excellent choice, Maggie." At that moment, his arms took back their usual color, his lacerations cauterized, and a few seconds, he was back to his usual appearance. His face returned to its normal state, but I already knew that he concealed behind those amber-colored eyes. It seems like Jason accepted my surrender, but before leaving my mother, he took out his pocket little red mouse. It was unmistakably a toy, one of those winding keys. He grabbed my mother from her jaw and pushed it into her mouth. "What's wrong, Mom? Did the mouse got your tongue?" He laughed, amused, pushing her away from him. In a nick of time, I saw my mother's eyes wide and frightened, a light and then an explosion. She fell on her knees, her jaw, her nose, and her eyes beat into a bloody pulp. She fell to the ground, a stain of blood enlarged from under her body. Blood and many pieces of flesh spurted on me, but I was paralyzed in front of my mother's corpse, while Jason didn't stop laughing. "Why did you do that?" The toy maker's overwhelming shadows covered me and bent down to his face got closer. which was spoiled on the roof of his flesh, wrote the club. Because I'm not your friend anymore, you little shit. Now I'm your creator. He then grasped me in my arm and dragged me towards him. Now, let me fix you up.